Ever argued over the last squirt of ketchup? It's a scene that plays out in kitchens and diners everywhere. A playful tug-of-war over that final precious drop. But have you ever stopped to wonder how this simple red sauce became such a staple on our tables, or why it inspires such devotion? It's funny, but this humble sauce has a history packed with drama, intrigue, and wild twists. Ketchup's journey is far more adventurous than you might expect, filled with unexpected turns and colorful characters. The ketchup we know today is nothing like its ancestors. In fact, if you traveled back in time, you might not even recognize it. If you asked for ketchup centuries ago, you'd get a salty, fermented fish sauce, no tomatoes in sight. The word ketchup itself comes from the Hokkien Chinese word catsup, a briny concoction that was worlds away from the sweet, tangy sauce we squeeze onto fries today. Ketchup's story is a culinary game of telephone, morphing from fish to mushrooms to the tomato-based staple we love. Each culture that encountered it added their own twist, transforming the recipe again and again. Our journey will take us from bustling ancient Chinese markets, where traders first bottled the original sauce, to the elegant dining rooms of Victorian England, and finally to the roaring factories of industrial America, where ketchup became a mass-produced phenomenon. Along the way, we'll meet adventurous sailors who spread the sauce across oceans, aristocrats who demanded ever fancier flavors, and even a doctor-turned-salesman who saw ketchup's potential as more than just a condiment. And of course, a food mogul who changed everything, Henry Heinz, whose name is now synonymous with ketchup itself. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a detective story about the world's most popular condiment, full of secrets, surprises, and a dash of mystery. So, let's rewind the clock and start where ketchup began, with a bucket of fish, a handful of salt, and a recipe that would travel the globe and change the way we eat forever. When you think of ketchup, you probably picture a bright red, sweet and tangy sauce squeezed onto fries or burgers. But the original ketchup? It was nothing like the condiment we know today. In fact, there were no tomatoes at all. The earliest ketchup was a fermented fish sauce from southern China, known as catsup. This pungent, savory liquid was made by packing fish and spices into jars and letting them ferment for months, creating a deeply flavorful sauce. Sailors quickly became obsessed with its salty, umami punch. They carried jars of catsup on long sea voyages, spreading it along trade routes to Southeast Asia and beyond. The sauce was prized for its ability to add flavor to bland shipboard meals and for its long shelf life. When British sailors encountered this exotic sauce, they wanted to recreate it back home, but with no access to the same fish or spices, they had to get creative. British cooks began experimenting, using whatever ingredients they had on hand to mimic the complex flavors of catsup. Enter mushroom ketchup. British cooks packed mushrooms with salt and spices, letting them steep and ferment to create a dark, savory liquid. This mushroom ketchup became a staple in British kitchens, used to season meats, stews, and pies. Soon the idea of ketchup expanded even further. Cooks experimented with all sorts of ingredients. Walnut, oyster, even lemon ketchup appeared on pantry shelves. Each version had its own unique flavor, but none of them were red or tomato-based. For centuries, ketchup was less a single recipe and more a whole category of sauces. What united them was their bold, punchy flavor and their ability to last for months without spoiling, a must in the days before refrigeration. These sauces became kitchen staples across Europe, used to liven up all kinds of dishes. But the biggest transformation in ketchup's story was still on the horizon. The twist that would change ketchup forever? It was about to happen in America, with a fruit that many people once believed was poisonous, the tomato. In America, ketchup's fate changed with the tomato, a fruit once feared as poisonous. Early 1800s gardeners grew tomatoes for decoration, not eating, thanks to their nightshade family reputation. But in 1812, James Mease published the first tomato ketchup recipe, boiling tomatoes with spices and brandy. This new ketchup was tangy, bright, and finally, red. It quickly caught on. Homemade and commercial tomato ketchup spread, but early versions spoiled fast and were often loaded with dangerous preservatives. The texture was thin, the taste inconsistent, and safety was questionable. Americans loved the idea, but the product needed a hero. Enter a doctor with a wild idea: ketchup is medicine. Dr. John Cook Bennett in the 1830s claimed tomatoes and ketchup could cure everything from indigestion to cholera. He published ketchup recipes and even sold tomato pills as miracle medicine. Suddenly, ketchup was a health craze, not just a condiment. While the medical claims were bogus, tomatoes do have real nutritional value. Bennett's hype made tomato ketchup wildly popular, but quality plummeted as companies rushed to cash in. Many used rotten tomatoes, dangerous chemicals, and fillers to stretch the product. Ketchup was now everywhere, but it was often unsafe and unappetizing. The industry was a mess and a reckoning was coming. The solution would come from a businessman, not a doctor. Enter Henry Heinz, a visionary entrepreneur who looked at the chaos of the ketchup industry and saw an opportunity to transform it forever. At a time when most ketchup was murky, inconsistent, and sometimes even dangerous, Heinz was determined to bring order and trust to the table. Heinz insisted on using only the purest ingredients. He selected ripe, juicy tomatoes at their peak and added generous amounts of vinegar for natural preservation, refusing to rely on the harsh chemicals and artificial additives that were common in other brands. This commitment to quality set his ketchup apart from the rest. To prove his ketchup's purity, Heinz made a bold move. He bottled it in clear glass. Unlike his competitors who hid their product in dark bottles, Heinz wanted customers to see the rich, vibrant color and smooth texture. This transparency built trust and made his ketchup a symbol of honesty. Heinz's marketing was relentless and innovative. He didn't just promote his own product, he exposed the unsafe practices of his rivals, highlighting the risks of chemical-laden condiments. He became a champion for food safety, pushing for higher standards and even supporting new food safety laws. The passage of the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act was a turning point. This landmark law forced ketchup makers across the country to clean up their act or close their doors. Heinz's advocacy and high standards helped shape the future of the entire food industry. As a result, Heinz's ketchup became the gold standard. Thick, sweet, and above all, safe to eat. Families everywhere could trust what they were putting on their plates. Heinz even popularized the now standard spelling ketchup, helping his products stand out in a crowded market filled with catsup and other variations. His attention to detail extended to every aspect of his brand. Through a combination of scientific innovation, relentless quality control, and clever branding, Heinz didn't just compete, he dominated the ketchup market, setting a new benchmark for the industry. The ketchup war was over, and Heinz had emerged as the undisputed winner, forever changing the way America enjoyed its favorite condiment. Heinz didn't just win, he redefined ketchup. His pure, sweet, tangy recipe became the American standard, and his branding made ketchup synonymous with Heinz. The sauce's journey, from fermented fish to tomato superstar, was complete. Ketchup's story is a testament to transformation, innovation, and the power of a good idea. Next time you reach for that bottle, remember it's more than a condiment, it's a piece of culinary history. What other foods in your pantry have wild backstories? Maybe we'll uncover another one next time.